One of my personal favorite things about CSS is being able to take something and restyle it at any given moment. Back when I used to style things with tables, the problem with tables was that we used to put images inside of the cells, not anything as a background image, because the cells didn't always stay as tall as they wanted or as wide as you wanted, and putting a background image in them didn't always work out to be as great as you had hoped. So now that we have CSS pages and all of our structure is CSS, I can style my page with a little bit more confidence that in 6 months when the client changes their mind, or even if it's my site and I change my mind 6 months from now, I can restyle my page in very little time. So we use something we call background images a lot. So the background image basically is designated in the CSS. I declare it there, and it is just then basically an image on the server that in the HTML I'm saying display this image here. It's not physically sitting on my page, it's just being displayed from the server onto my page. And this is how we can put it together. So if you open join.html, and because of my resolution, I'm going to put my page just a tiny bit smaller by Command or Control minus. I know it doesn't look as nice this way, but at least I can see more of my page this way. If I put my cursor in where it says join, you'll notice that it's a heading 1. Now, heading 1 is exactly what I would want on that page for SEO reasons and accessibility reasons. This is going to help in my search engine, help with the structure of my page, because I want items of more importance towards the top of my page. But it doesn't look very pretty just sitting there by itself. Join, meetings, photo walks, contact, etc. So I want this to be a little bit more unique. I also take a look at my CSS styles, and I notice that I've got a compound selector for all of my, here let me collapse my files view so I can actually see this a little bit better. So for all of my elements, my H1, I took my H2 out of there at one point because I had it styled totally differently. I didn't want it to have the exact same padding and margins as everything else did. H3, H5, H6, and my P has a margin left of 15 pixels and a margin right of 15 pixels. That way, I really don't have to give the containers themselves actual padding. The elements themselves have the padding on them. So I can just put them in the page, and I don't have to worry about the actual structure itself. The elements have the effect that I want on them. So I see that I have something for an H2 in here, and if I were to take this and turn it into an H2, I see that I already have a style applied to that. So I have it as a lighter gray. It has some line height and some margin and some padding to it, and I also have a border bottom of a dotted line or a dashed line. I see dashed, okay? So that's already styled. But I don't want that at the very top of my page because it is more important than anything else is, so I really want that to be an H1. So I'll take it back to H1, and I will add my own CSS rule, which we have not really done so far over in our panel yet. So once again, the links over on the right hand side, the very first one is attach a style sheet. So if I didn't have a style sheet applied, I would click that little button and I would attach the style sheet from here. My second button over is my new CSS rule, which is what we're going to do right now. And I have an edit rule. In my other current style, I can disable a style as well, which we can't do at the moment because we're not in that particular part of the panel. Before I actually make my style, I want to make sure that I'm really in the right place. So I really try and keep things in order as they are on the page. So in my CSS file itself, I would have all of my major elements, my global elements at the top of my page. Then my structure, then any content elements, then any maybe class styles at the bottom, making sure that I don't repeat anything as well. I keep everything commented out nicely also. That way that if somebody else looks at my file, they're able to make heads and tails out of it easily. So I'm going to click up here, and then I'm going to click on my new CSS rule button. It automatically understands that I'm inside of something, so it shows me my compound based on the selection where my cursor is at. So it sees that I have an outside container called container. Then I have a content wrapper where my cursor happens to be at the time. Then I have a container called column 2 stretch, and then my H1 element. Just so I don't confuse anything, whenever I'm working with my CSS, as often as I possibly can, I try and keep any of my main level elements like this, my H1s, etc., as true to their form as they can be, so that if I put an H1 absolutely anywhere on my page, then it looks like an H1 anywhere else on my page. So I will click OK. Maybe we'll give this another color. Let's make it white. I'm going to go to my background category first though, because I want to see the actual background image that I'm going to place in here and see if I need to change any spacing, margins, padding, etc. So I'm going to go to my background image and I'm going to click Browse. Making sure that I'm in Chapter 6, I'm going to go to my Assets and my Images. And I can see a little bar here. So I have this image called H1BG for H1 background. And it's just this interesting little bar that I made in Fireworks. So I will click OK, taking note of the size also, so that it's 672 pixels wide and it's 35 pixels tall. It is a PNG. So if it did have transparency to it, I would need to be aware of that in older browsers like IE6 that wouldn't be able to see that PNG file as being transparent. It's going to put a background color to it, so I need to be aware of these things and make sure that I understand who my client is and who they expect to be visiting their website. So I will click OK. This is not going to repeat. I am going to give this an X of left and a background position of center. Now the reason I'm doing that is because I would really like it to be in the center of my H1 element. So I'm going to click Apply. And now I have this really nice, oh, I've got a repeat. No repeat. There we go. I click Apply again, and now I see that it does not repeat. Now the element itself is all the way over to the edge. Do I want that or don't I want that? It's really up to me. So just so that we can see what it looks like, if I go to my box category, my padding is going to go for the element itself, and my margin, if I say, let's say margin left of 15, and I click Apply, I see it took the element, the background image, and gave it a margin left of 15. So now it sits even with the rest of my text on my page. I click OK. And I will zoom my page back up again by Control plus or Command plus so I can actually see this a little bit better. And I'll go ahead and click on Live View this time so I can actually see what that would look like in my page. Now I do have my footer in this particular file as being fixed for my position. So it's always going to be on top of the other elements on my page. So that's why you see the footer actually sitting above everything else. And if I would want to scroll, then it scrolls underneath that particular footer. So that's one example of a background image. If we take a look at the body tag itself here, we see that it also has a background image. So for instance, if I want to see what this actually looks like, I'll go over to my current and I see where my background image is here. If I click on where it says my URL at up here, Notice that for once at the very bottom of that panel, I have my little no symbol actually enabled now. It's not grayed out any longer. And this allows me, while I'm just looking at my CSS, to click that and say apply or don't apply to that particular element. And I'll show that again. Of course, I had my cursor sitting in that particular portion of my file. Now I can see the actual element itself up here. I can see my body. And now I can actually see the cascade underneath it here. So where I happen to be selected at the time, it's marking out my background image, and if I roll over this, it says background does not apply to your selection because it's not inherited. It is applied to the enclosing tag. However, page elements are transparent by default, so this color may show through. So it's marking out the fact that I had a margin and a padding in there. I didn't really need that. It's taking on the body font, etc. Let's go back to all. And if I am selected on my body tag here, in my page, I'm going to cut out live view for a second here so I can actually click on my body tag. Live code is great, but that's one thing you have to be aware of, is that while you're in live code, there's certain things that you can and can't do on your page. So now if I say current and I click on this, I can also use a keyboard shortcut for turning this on and off. And on the PC, it is Control and Alt, and on the Mac, it is Command and Alt. And this will turn particular elements on and off. So I can enable that or disable that particular feature, so I can see, really this is a great debugging feature for CSS. Normally, I would have to take this in a browser like Firefox and use a plugin like Firebug to be able to turn on and off particular elements so that I can see where maybe I have some extra spacing that I really don't need in my file. This is strictly a CS5 feature as well. Being able to see the cascade to this degree is fantastic. So now we see what actual background images are and how they can improve our page. If you'd like to know more about background images or like better examples of background images, CSS Zen Garden is a fantastic place to be able to explore the possibilities of CSS.